Hey there, everyone. Welcome to this morning's edition of the NBC Markets Morning Call. It's the 7th of July, 2026. I'm Mark Gardner. We've returned from 4th of July holiday trade on really light volume, around about this sort of about a third less volume than normal compared to the last month overall. And look, we essentially saw just a bit of a bid tone come back into the chip stocks. Tesla sort of led the way for the Mag 7. But look, I wouldn't take too much out of what really unraveled overnight. I think we were somewhere in the vicinity of sort of 16 million shares traded. Normally it's 20, around the 23, 24 million. So yeah, not a night to necessarily take a huge indicator from, albeit that the easy trade lately has been to buy the chip stocks. So they've rebounded about 2.2% after dropping 12% over the last couple of weeks. AMD, Broadcom up, TSMC was up 4% along with Qualcomm. Memory stocks rallied as well. We got SanDisk coming, quickly coming to market, I believe. It could actually be in the next 4 days. I heard something around about the 11th at one stage. Nvidia lagged. There's been a report from Semi-Analysis that's claiming the NVL 144 rack is delayed to 2028 due to PCB issues, and some have dismissed it. Some have sort of seen it as a sign of Nvidia slowing down. Personally, we sort of think Nvidia is quite cheap here at the moment, but it's not the hot trade anymore. So, it'd be one of those things that I sort of believe that, unless there's a major blowout in CapEx here, I think some of these hyperscalers are pretty undervalued. I think, you've got the likes of Google and Microsoft come well off highs. Microsoft's been treated like it's a 2-bit software stock when realistically, I mean, it's probably one of the bigger, if not the biggest hyperscaler in terms of, data center and Azure and all that sort of thing. But yeah, overall, it was a little bit patchy. Look, even Applied Materials was down really. Lam Research was down a slight bit. So, look, I wouldn't call it a trend-defining sort of session overall. We sort of started to bounce back a little bit with the ASX, and obviously, trends starting to turn around a little bit. We do have the Dow at records. The S&P is about 1% from records. The Nasdaq's kind of struggling a little bit still, but I mean off a really hot run. And the Russell as well. So, again, not much to put in there to take out. That's a light blue bar that we haven't seen for, about maybe 6 months or more, as Bitcoin up nearly 10% over a 5-day period. And gold, silver, and platinum up around the 4 to 5% mark over a 5-day period as well. Crude sort of still drifting. We're seeing some sort of stabilizing in some of these critical minerals. I think that theme will probably come back a little bit. US dollar drifting a little bit as well. And one of the former Japanese currency czars, Yamasaki, said the yen should be around about 130. It's undervalued by up to 20% at this point in time against the US dollar. And the US is pretty supportive of the Japanese intervention at any time. We are at pretty critical levels at multi-decade highs in terms of dollar yen. I think the market's kind of been, they're expecting the BOJ to continue raising rates, and everyone's kind of been expecting and getting probably a little bit squeezed out. I would say on this yen trade, expecting the central bank to intervene, but it sort of hasn't materialised. So. But you've just got to be a little bit wary. But when that money gets taken out of the system, being what happened with that yen carry trade in the past, like it can lead to some volatile intraday moves. So Iran, there's a massive funeral going on. No sighting of the successor. We've had a couple of analysts out of Europe sort of turn around and go, well, this Middle East conflict and any form of weakness in the US, US stock market could tip the Eurozone into a recession. They're obviously still dealing with Ukraine and Russia going on as well. So we had bond yields just fall back a little bit. There's the easing bets, tapered off after that poor payrolls number. Excuse me. Services PMI improved slightly. And prices, and ISM services prices paid rose as well. So inflation's still on the, still on the radar. We got Warsh testifying tonight, and then Fed minutes, which is the first under Warsh out Wednesday. That will be super key read for the rest of the week, and pretty much what, is the only thing anyone's going to be really watching, I would imagine, overall, because we're pretty light on in terms of economic figures this week. The SPY was largely flat overnight. There is a little bit of corporate news around, though, overall, and I'll sort of run you through that. But if you want an earnings calendar leading into the US earnings season, or for those of you who are just ASX only, you should definitely consider that we at NPC Markets here. We have a US recommendation service. We can execute those trades for you as well. Normal broking service. We generally do quite well. Earnings is a quarterly catalyst, a little bit different to the ASX. So for those of you who are interested, by all means, please go to the website and try and sign up. It's a pretty simple process, same as your kind of normal stock account. And we've also got recommendation service there as well for those of you who are self-directed. We had a pretty good run last time, and we got on a fair few chip stocks. I won't give too much away for what we're looking at this earnings season, but yeah, you can go and get your Mosaic Platinum free trial. If you just inquire at the website, and you'll get those recommendations for a month. So go and have a look and sign up today, and you'll get some pretty good value. There's normally recommendation or two a week across ASX and the US, and we've also got an interactive calendar on our platform Mosaic. So for those of you who don't know about our podcast, our weekly podcast, myself, Kai Chen, Fin Judel, went through the halftime report and discussed the full year for the ASX in terms of the financial year, and then also the first half of the year for both the ASX and the US. Some pretty interesting points, some really good infographics and things, and then a little bit of insight into where we're looking for the rest of, or for the back half of this year. A great little stat that came out of it was there's never been a high, a yearly high for the index in June. So, and this year remains the same because we, particularly for the Dow, we've already made a new record high, and it's only July the 7th, and we're only about 1% away from, 1% away from a high in the S&P. So, yeah, but just to this ASX news, we've got Lynas putting a $50 million investment in a Malaysian rare earth magnet factory with South Korea's JS Link, and a supply deal to 2038. That's a pretty big one for them. A2 Milk reported some revenue and earnings and things as well. I won't go too deep on that. South 32, Arizona zinc manganese mine, Hermosa, set for US Forest Service fast track approval because Trump's essentially just eliminated all the environmental controls over there now. Netwealth reported some net inflows of 15 billion, which makes a lot of sense because the ETF market is just absolutely killing it these days. And then they won a Morgan Stanley Wealth Management as a platform client deal as well. That'll be pretty good for them as well. And then VanEck launched their first AI-powered ETF called GOAT. But yeah, I'm not entirely sure, what the details of that means or why they called it GOAT. But there's just a few of the corporate goings on in terms of the ASX today. For those of you, we got a couple of ASX recommendations probably flowing out over the course of the next sort of week or so, and for those of you who want to, get those direct to their inbox, sign up to Mosaic today. But that pretty much wraps it up for today. I hope you all celebrated the 4th of July and the 250th. You know, the White House put a apparently did a time capsule, you know, in one of the gardens there, which they put an iPhone into, which a tech analyst said is almost guaranteed to actually set on fire because it's and probably destroy the contents of the capsule. You know, pretty there's been some pretty odd things come out on you know, on social media as they celebrated the 4th of July. For those of you who are fans of comedy and streaming, check out Larry David's new series on the history of America as well. That wraps it up for today. We will speak again tomorrow.